very critical. I feel like if you've watched any of my videos, you can probably tell I have an opinion on just about anything, and that's good. That's how it's meant to be. But I'm just in general very pensive. So I love when everything that I engage with makes me think. Like, I want you to make me dig into my brain and really just analyze everything that's going on. So when a book makes me do that, I'm just like, I love it. But with this book, it was so different because yes, I can think about how this book makes me feel about, my life, about the people who I interact with, just about how, the world of literature works in general, or even just kind of like different elements of the world that, you can tell that they're speaking about in a fantasy book. This one, however, I was like, I read it and obviously it made me think, but I was so upset like when I came to the end of this book, because this book was really just a blazing commentary of how the world has gone to utter crap. And I was so upset. Now, the book which I am referring to is The Murder After the Night Before by Katie Brent. Now, I just picked this up because, you know what? The cover was bright and cute, and I'm just like, okay, murder. And I think it's going to be like this really fun book where I'm just like hopping with a young girl as she tries to solve a mystery, as an amateur sleuth. Well, this kind of is like that, but it goes beyond that. And I was surprised because I didn't expect it. But just to give you a bit of the plot of this book, basically, this young girl, Molly, she's a journalist, but she's a journalist at like this teen magazine, this teen website, so kind of like cookie cutter thing. So even though she went to school for proper journalism and she would like to, go into more intense stuff, she is stuck here, but then obviously she has a lot going on in her life. That's the classic character trope. That I was expecting. I wasn't all phased about it. But she wakes up one morning. She wakes up with a random stranger in her bed. Like, that is the story, deeper into the book that we will address. Or we might not. But she wakes up with a stranger in her bed. Obviously, she's just like, what did I do last night? She has no recollection of what happened the night before. Her phone is dead, and she thinks, oh my goodness, I might have dropped it in water, so she throws it in rice, and she's late for work. So, of course, the first thing she does, obviously, after, confronting who this guy was, she realizes, oh, he is decent, or he's presenting as a decent individual. And then, he goes, and then she goes off to work as well. She goes off to work. On the bus, people are staring at her, and she's just like, okay, that's weird, rude teenagers, but you know what? That can happen all the time. And then she gets to work. Her coworkers are giving her a little side eye. And then she gets to her desk. And even the friend next to her is just like, hey girl, have you been online? Because you acting a bit normal. I didn't expect you to come in. And Molly is just like, why wouldn't I have come in? And so that's when crap hits the fan. She is then confronted with the reality that she has now become a social media sensation in the worst of ways. She's gone viral for performing a sexual act on a man in a back alley and having someone, record that and post that online. So she is everywhere. And that is the first time she's hearing about it and finding out about it at work. Literally, there are so many things to be said here, and there are so many things that we're going to discuss, especially about how this book, like I said, is a commentary on the deterioration of society on a whole. But I'm just thinking, just from that alone, when I got, a few pages into this book, and that's what she was facing, I wanted to crawl in a hole and die on her behalf. It's one thing to wake up, see that on your phone, see that your life is, going to crap. You know what? That's one thing. That's already destructive enough. But finding out that your life is going to crap at work, at your professional setting, where, let's be real, a lot of people put on a facade anyway at work. But even if you don't, that's work. You're meant to be professional. That's cool. And the thing that is turning your life to crap is that, of all things, performing a sexual act on a random stranger on your knees in a back alley. Please, I kid you not, I would burst into flames right there and then. There would be no saving me. I would summon every bit of power that I have. Even though this is not a supernatural book, I would find power and I would just explode. Just boom. Because absolutely not. Just just finish me right now. Like, honestly, I would summon every character from Mortal Kombat out of the game and say, you know what? I am allowing you. Just finish me. Whatever finishing move you have, use it on me. Slam me to the ground. I wouldn't be able to take it. That is absolutely gut-wrenching. Like, that is terrifying that is what she goes through. Now, it gets even more intense because she wakes up, she finds this out. Obviously, she goes home, after she has a chat with her manager, and things keep hitting the fan. Like, things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. She then tries to contact her best friend, and then she thinks, oh my goodness, is she ignoring me because of this? But she's just like, she would never. Her best friend is also her roommate. She can't find her best friend. She calls her best friend's job. They can't find her either. They can't get in contact with her. Eventually, she finds her best friend in the bathtub of their flat, and obviously the friend is dead. So when she left that flat this morning, her friend was actually there and just dead. And so you've gone viral for the worst reasons, and your best friend is dead. Like, do you know the amount of emotional turmoil that you're going through right now? I felt for her so badly. But that aside, let's actually get into the real topic of today, which is how basically society is in the crapper. Like, it's just trash. Society is just deep diving into the toilet, and it doesn't seem like it's going to find a way out anytime soon. Let us really get into it. Okay, so obviously I've given you guys a small summary of the plot. I might go a bit into it a bit more later with a bit of my points in terms of like how society is crap and how this book is really just like highlighting that to me. First and foremost, the toxicity of social media. I think as people who are on social media quite a lot, like, let's be real, you can say, oh, I don't have all these apps, I'm not on it that much. Like, we are a social media generation. You know what? Even the boomers have social media. Like, social media is not something that we can escape. Like, it's just an integral part of our daily lives. And that's not necessarily bad completely, because there are such amazing aspects of social media. Like, right now I am speaking to, you know, how many people view this. Like, I speak to so many people. I get to interact with strangers who are literally thousands of miles away. I get to make friends with them through social media. Like, social media can be so great. You can share messages which you wouldn't normally hear through social media. Like, a lot of people actually get their news on social media. Now, that is also dangerous because there's also a lot of like lies on there, but there's a good side to it as well. You can celebrate people on social media. Social media can be such a beautiful thing, but on the other side, it can be so not just negative, it can be toxic. Now, something that's toxic is something that can actually kill you, and I'm not even exaggerating here, and that's the sad part about it, because in this book, the way that Molly was attacked and shamed, the way that social media has the power to literally upend your life in a matter of seconds is absolutely insane. Because before she even woke up, she was a viral sensation and her life was destroyed. And that was before she woke up, before she was even aware of what was going on. Her life was in the bin. Like, it was gone. And it's the fact that throughout this book, obviously, each chapter, I love how Katie Brent did this. Each chapter, basically, the top of each chapter is a tweet that, you know, Molly has encountered on Twitter. And it is the fact that she had so many accusations thrown at her, and a lot of them baseless, because you people see a clip online and you guys are already making assumptions and accusations of a woman that you have no idea who she is. You have no idea who her story is. No one considered, at least for a very long time in the book, not a single person considered that this might have been against her will. This might have been, you know, sexual assault. All they saw was a lady in a compromising position in public, and they were ready to attack her. And you know what? Why I say like social media is toxic in the sense that it has that toxicity that can actually kill is that people have, you know, had their mental health deteriorate because of situations like this, or other situations that really just stem from social media, or like stem from people on social media. And I'm like, you know what? Like I said earlier, you know, Molly, classic protagonist. She has like a, you know, a harrowing backstory. And that's not to say that's bad, but, you know, a lot of people have gone through a lot. These people have no idea what is going on in her life. Nothing at all. And without a second thought, just attack, attack, attack. That was their first instinct. And that is usually the first instinct of most people on social media. Without doing your research, without having any background, without having any context, you see something that's compromising, or you see something that, might be a bit harmful, and you just decide to jump on the attack train. Now, I read this and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Once again, I said that the situation is so embarrassing, but it goes beyond embarrassing. Remember, I said at the beginning of the book, she could not remember a single thing that happened the night before. Not a single thing that happened the night before. Now, for a lot of people who end up in compromising positions, like, you already are making assumptions without knowing what they've gone through. Like, literally, FA. And she had no idea. But they were fully attacking her, and that's what happened. That's what happens regularly. And I'm just like, this is not just social media, it's society, because this was going on before the true social media era. Now, I don't know, the demographic of whoever is watching this, but this might be before your time, this might be during your time, but Monica Lewinsky went through this. And it was even before, the blow of social media. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth or too in detail about the Monica Lewinsky situation, but I've seen her speak on, the aftermath of what happened. She was bullied relentlessly. Her family, her friends were bullied relentlessly, and it really affected her life in the most negative way. Now, we're not going to affirm anyone's actions if they were negative actions. We're not. But then at the same time, having a collection of people, especially people you do not know, just hammer down on you, it's absolutely insane. And this is why I'm just like, society, we're getting worse and worse, and social media isn't helping us, because what it's doing is that it's amplifying people's ability to be cruel and insensitive. And if anything, it's desensitizing people, because you see something happen online, most people don't think before they speak, don't think before they act. They're just ready to act, they're just ready to comment, they're just ready to ruin someone's day just for the fun of it, because it's just a normal part of being online. And that shouldn't be the case, but that's literally the case now. And I was reading this book, and with every chapter, with everything that I saw, obviously, she was reading, the tweets that she was reading, I was getting so livid. I was getting so sad on her behalf, because this happens quite a lot to a lot of people, and it's just so disheartening to see. I'm like, once again, I told you, if this was me, I would crawl into a shell and die. But it's not even the workplace that knows, it's the whole world that knew. I can't imagine. And this is why I'm just like, the world is going to hell, and it's continuing in that trajectory, and I don't see it moving away from it. Now, we've addressed social media a bit, but then it's not just like social media and the power of social media, especially, its ability to destroy someone's life, but it's also the selective censorship that, we see on social media. Now, it can be really, really great, because you can find uplifting communities. Now, people who have faced so much in their lives can find communities that will lift them up and support them. And I love that. I love that social media can actually be like a safe space for people who don't have safe spaces. But that's not always the case. Because, yes, it can bring people together for positive outcomes, which we do see, a bit later on in the book. But it can also be used to, silence voices. As much as it can amplify voices, it can silence voices, and we see that in selective censorship. There are times when you see certain people are being silenced simply because of whether that be race, gender, or even someone's past. They can be someone can be saying something really, really sensible, something that makes sense and it's actually true, but people are choosing not to listen simply because, oh, you know what, she had a past. And let's not forget about how social media has shown itself to be biased against women, because as much as they were vilifying Molly in this book, and we watched them read them vilify Molly in this book, no, there were barely any tweets of people questioning who's the man, because is he not in a back alley getting a sexual act done? Are we forgetting about him? And once again, remember, there is a possibility of sexual assault that barely anyone approaches, barely anyone decides to touch, because it's all on the woman. It's all about making sure that the woman is the one who takes the blame, making sure that the woman is the one at fault. Let's not pretend that we don't see a growing, and you would think it would decrease, because have we not come far in this life? But no, it's just growing and growing, how much women are just made to be the culprit of everything. And then people will turn around and say, you just like being the victim. No, no, no. Women don't like being the victim. Women are made victims. Like, no. Because in this situation, she wasn't trying to be a victim. She was victimized, okay? But no one wanted to see that. No one wanted to even approach that side of the topic because, well, that's just not how it rolls, is it? Like, the double standards in society is insane. And we're not even like looking into the workplace and, the pay gap, and we're not even touching that. It's just a general bias against women. And we're not going to pretend that it doesn't exist, because Molly's experience really reflects the way that a woman can be condemned for an action or behavior which will be celebrated in men. And it's just absolutely ridiculous because no one questioned that man. And we see in situations like this, where something like this happens, it's always the woman's fault, What were you doing? It was definitely you who started it. But are there not two to tango? And considering one of the two parties might not have really just given consent, like, is this even a tango, really? Because once again, let's refer back to the Monica Lewinsky situation. Now, I didn't want to go in depth with it, but for those of you who may not know, because this was like before your time, like I said, I do not know the demographic of people who are watching this video. But basically, Monica Lewinsky was an aide in the Clinton administration. And so this was well over a decade ago, maybe decades ago. And she started to have an affair with President Clinton. Forgive my my rudeness. Yeah, she began to have an affair with President Clinton. And obviously this got leaked, which is why we know now. And the way that President Clinton was just like ignored through it all. I'm just like, first of all, Monica Lewinsky is a 22-year-old aide, She is young. She is dumb. And I'm not saying that, she's intellectually dumb, but I mean, like, at that age, we know that our prefrontal cortex is not fully like developed. Like, we don't make good decisions before we're 25 in general. I know, like, a lot of people are quite responsible, but it's been proven that, your brain isn't really developed until you hit that age, 25. So imagine being a young lady, you've gotten this amazing job. You're working in the White House for the president. And we don't know who came on to who, because was that question addressed when it was happening? No. All you saw was, oh, she's young and she's pretty. She seduced him. She wanted to climb up. She wanted to get up on the ladder. The things that they said about this young woman, oh my goodness, I felt so bad, because a lot of you might listen to like a lot of rap and then you hear Monica Lewinsky, all like, you see Monica Lewinsky in so many lyrics, and a lot of people don't even know what it's referencing, but it's referencing that she became a pop a pop culture icon, but in the worst ways, because every time they're referencing like a sex act, they're now referencing you. They're really just condemning you, but no one is talking about Bill Clinton. No one is talking about, oh, Clinton this, Clinton that. You don't hear that in songs. You don't, because what is it? They're celebrating him for getting a young, cute thing. But I'm just like, are we not going to condemn him for, the abuse of power? He was president. She was an aide, okay? Because to me, the way I'm seeing this is essentially the same abuse of power that happens with a teacher and student, okay? And let's not forget, because of the power dynamics, if he came on to her and he said, I want you to do this, chances are she didn't have the chance to say no. Now, once again, I don't really know the ins and the outs. We will never know. We were not in the room where it happened. My Hamilton stand up, baby. But we weren't in the room where it happened, and we will never be. So we will never really know like how everything came together, how this relationship formed, whether it was we don't know the ins and the outs, okay? But then the power dynamics between them show, first and foremost, he had more power, but no one is thinking about, oh, this might have been an abuse of power. Not even might have, this was an abuse of power. And not just that, once again, young 20-something-year-old. I forgot how old he was, but he was probably 50. I'm just like, see that age difference once again. Abuse of power. Your brain is developed. You knew better than to play games. You knew better than to even start this. And let's not even, people are talking about, her morality. What about him? This man was married. I mean, he still is. But when this was happening, he was fully married to Miss Hillary. Like, why are we vilifying her, condemning her, and turning around and saying, oh, she was out here being a home wrecker? He was wrecking his own home. I'm so sorry. Because if you had a home that you wanted to preserve, you wouldn't have been moving like that. But No, in society, what do we do first? We look to the woman and we find any way that we can bring them down. Once again, I am not in the company or in the business of affirming someone who has done wrong, because let's not lie. She was still in the wrong. Like, you were having an affair with a very publicly married man. You knew this man was married. It was very clear. Like, in certain situations, if you don't know, that's different. You very clearly knew this man was married. Like, we're not going to affirm her wrongdoings in this, but we're also not going to affirm the way that society attacked her and only her. And I know I touched on this already, but the victim blaming of women, like, this book, I'm telling you, this book had me like going through the motions and thinking about everything, because I was just like, this it was making me hot. It really was. Because literally the narrative shows Molly being blamed and shamed for the actions that made her viral and even for going viral, instead of focusing on her clear invasion of privacy and the misconduct of others involved. Like, there was no concern for any other party. It was just Molly, Molly, Molly. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Is anyone going to just be real? Be real for a second, like 2 seconds maybe. And like I said, eventually, we see people actually being decent and actually considering, oh, maybe she was sexually assaulted, guys. We don't know if this was consensual. And like, it was just, this book made me just see, like, just how society, like, we're, back in the day, this would be considered the dredges of society. The people who were commenting and, who were just moving mad, they would be considered the dredges of society, or being plucked from the dredges of society. But why does it seem like majority of people are being plucked from the dredges of society? Like, come on. Or is it just the people who are bold enough to speak, And in that case, you know what? Stop it. Because I was going through this book and I'm just like, every chapter I go through, and keep in mind, like, there's still a murder to be solved, because it was a murder, and we're going to touch on something along that plot point as well. But there's a whole murder to be solved, yeah? And I am being confronted left, right, and center with, like, just these points about society that are not going away, like, just these negative points. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, is this the world I'm living in? Like, I don't want to be in a world that is this terrible, especially to a woman. Like, because what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because like I said, there's a bias against us, and they're quick to blame us even if we're not at fault. Like, it's just not cute at all. Now, another point which I really, really enjoyed is how it tackled personal and societal accountability. Like, I really, really liked how it came after institutions like the police for their incompetence, basically, especially when it comes to someone seeking help, to the point that someone has to now basically do their job for them. Like, the utter lack of support that Molly faced in this book from so many institutions, forcing her to take matters into her own hands and endangering her own life, is absolutely sickening. Now, to give you a bit of more context, yes, this might be a bit of spoiler, but I did put this in the video title so you guys knew. Essentially, she finds Posey's body, her best friend, in the flat. Obviously, she calls the police. They come and da-da-da-da. And they're just like, oh, it looks like a suicide, or it looks like, she got drunk and, she fell in the bathtub and da-da-da. And then Molly starts to find evidence that it's not as simple as it seems. And so she goes to the police with her evidence. And she's just like, I don't think it's as simple as that. She gives them, like, the evidence that she's discovered so far. She's just like, could you guys look more into it? I think my best friend was murdered, essentially. And then they're just like, you've gone through a lot, because obviously, like I said, she's viral, so even they know who she is. They're like, you've gone through a lot. You might not be in the right headspace, so we're not going to take you seriously. They don't say it like that, but that's essentially what they tell her. Like, Molly's quest to seek justice for her best friend Posey, it underscores, like, the incompetence of the entire institution, especially the lack of support that they provide. And in some cases, the necessity for individuals to seek justice on their own terms. And this is a wider institution issue. Like, the institution in this book was obviously the police, but this is not the only institution that needs, like, a complete overhaul. But speaking of, like, the police, like, especially when it comes to violence against women, like, it just seems like you could do better. You really could do better. Because, if someone is being stalked and the party in question who's stalking, or the party in question who, is posing a threat, That person who's being stalked can go to the police, report all the incidents, report that they are fearful for their life, and there's nothing that can be done. You see, unless they do something, we can't do anything. I'm just like, some manner of protection until they attempt something might be like appreciated. And maybe their consistent stalking, like the minute you stalk me, like, I'm so sorry, in the jail you go. Like, you should not be allowed to keep stalking me. I'm so sorry, it's so annoying. But then this is how you have people who end up getting battered, and sometimes because, oh, we couldn't do anything until they did something. But what if what they did was murder? Like, so you can't do anything until they kill me. Is that what you're telling me? There needs to just be a better system. Like, I have not studied law and justice, and so you know what, I know that there are way more details when it comes to this, so it's way more complicated than just protecting, or just doing this. But it doesn't even seem like it's a concern for them. Like, oh, we're not even bothered to try and see what can be done for situations like this. How many women are fleeing their homes and then are chased by their exes and then end up getting beaten and killed and assaulted, but the police couldn't do anything until that person did that. And if it's the case of that person ends up killing you, then the most they can do is take him to jail, but you've already lost your life, or someone that has already lost their life. Like, it's terrifying for women who are put in that situation, but it doesn't seem like the institutions are even concerned at trying to solve the issue. Like, they're just like, this is where we are at, and we can't do anything about it. Are you trying? Are you trying to find different solutions? Are you trying to find a solution at all? Like, no. And so this book really kind of like, it made me upset when it came to that, because I'm just like, let's be real, no one's trying to vilify the police, but then there are so many flaws within the entire institution that could be addressed, or that could be acknowledged as something that needs to be addressed, and that's not happening. So I think that's where I was just like, ooh, I hate this. But yeah, like, I was really going through it when it came to like that, because obviously when it comes to like, 'cause this is fiction, we're not going to pretend like this is something that happened in real life, but this definitely happens to someone. Like, something like this has definitely happened to some people. And yeah, it's fiction, but it's based on a lot of people's realities, or it reflects a lot of people's realities. And so yes, this is fiction, but for the lives of those women who are fleeing and getting hurt, like, definitely not fiction to them. And so I was just like, you know, y'all need to fix up, get it together. But for now, all I could do is like really kind of reflect on everything, and the reflection was hurting me, because I'm just like, this is just showing me that you guys suck. Sorry about it. I also feel like this is kind of more like a subplot, or not a subplot, but it's more of those, something that I was just like, okay, it's not as like, to the front as the other points that were really kind of screaming at me. It's just how like the story kind of showed how these superficial relationships that we see on social media are given more merit, or given more attention than like genuine relationships. And I'm not the first to say this, we all know this, like, people are valuing like their social media friends, or like they're valuing people on social media who they have no real connection with, and kind of really neglecting having, or even forming, or nurturing and maintaining real life genuine relationships. They're really just focusing on social media and foregoing real life. And it's sad, because one thing I loved about this book is the ending. In the ending, I won't tell you too much about this, but obviously she lost her best friend, but then all the entire ordeal that she went through like gave her cause to, or allowed her to form more relationships. And I really did love that, because social media is taking over, and yeah, her life could be consumed with social media. And now that she's a social media sensation, her life could be consumed with everything that's going on there, because now she's a public figure. She could be focusing on the parasocial relationship that she has with her followers, because she did gain a lot of followers. But at the same time, like, she was able to form like genuine proper relationships through it all. And so I'm just like, I really really hope that people can just take a step back, like, just a bit, take a step back, and turn off your social media, and actually notice that you have people in your life. And if you don't, then that's a problem. Because I know some people are just like, I'm okay being alone, but we're not made to be alone. We're made to be we're made to be interdependent. We depend on one another for everything, whether that's support and however way that is, like physical, mental, whatever it is. Like, you need people, and it's really important that you have genuine people who genuinely care. So I really appreciated kind of like how it was something that was underscored, but like a very, very important aspect in the book. And lastly, what I loved about this book, and a good side, is, and this doesn't really have to speak on society, but it's more so like through it all, we kind of, not kind of, we see like Molly's like journey, her personal growth journey, and how she becomes more accountable, because really she was this self-doubting, just negative Nelly. And you know what? She had gone through a lot, and I understood that. But she became someone who, took charge and accepted that, her past doesn't define her, and actually put in the work to change and to experience real growth. And not just that, someone who like fights for justice aside from what is going on in their real life. Because sometimes like your life will be like going to crap, but you have to really kind of put yourself aside. And I kind of love that it kind of showed like those values. So this book, it was half and half, because it made me like extremely livid because of how it, once again pointed out, the negative side of society, not just social media, but society in general, because the people on social media are the people who make up society. But there were like good positive sides as well. Like, we saw her, deal with grief, not even just, the loss of Posey, but then she had been dealing with grief over the long term, of her mom. And so we saw her deal with a lot. We saw her deal with the self-doubt. We saw her deal with just like so much in this book. And all the while she's like, solving mysteries and, investigating not just, Posey's death, but something else that happened. Like, it was like a surprising read for me. Obviously, I didn't give it like a full 5 stars. There are parts that could be improved. We're not going to touch on that. But I was pleasantly surprised with how this book turned out. I really, really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly, and I really, really enjoyed going through it all. But I also really did enjoy how it made me think. Like I said, I love pieces of literature that makes me like go beyond the story itself and go further and actually relate the story of the book to what's going on around me. And so this book, if you aren't into thrillers, but if you do want like a social commentary on the world today and how it relates to, social media and how women are treated and how women are victimized and blamed, like, if that sounds like a bit of you, but you also really like, multi-layered murder mystery, then you know what, pick this up, because this had some multi-layered mystery. It had quite a bit of drama, as you can imagine. Like, there was a lot of drama. There are a lot of secrets being unveiled, especially when she was looking more into Posey's life, to see what could have led to her death. Like, there was a lot, but yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. After I read it, I was definitely like in my head, like I said, going through all of these thoughts. But yeah, I left and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to pick up more of Katie Brent's books. So if an author leaves you feeling like that, then yeah, good book, good book. But yeah, that's it from me today, guys. I hope to see you next time. I don't think I introduced myself, so if you made it to the end, yeah, hi, my name is Shelly. I love speaking about books and, just giving commentary on books, the literary world, or what books make me think of. So yeah, that's it for today, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.